Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to sign high-ticket clients using a podcast. And you've got no need for a massive following, you just need a smart and strategic approach. So how this works very basically is you're going to find industry influencers or thought leaders with an audience you want to attract, pitch them the offer of a podcast guest opportunity to market their own services, and then you're going to use the podcast to subtly pitch your services to them during the episode because you'll get in front of people very easily who have a much larger following of you, who can refer people, who you can build a relationship with, and who will likely become clients themselves. So the first aspect is subtly pitching your services. It also allows you to build that trust relationship with the guests, also massively distribute your content and leverage and effectively steal part of their audience. Every single episode is going to go out with a call to action to book a call with you. You're going to condense every episode into a newsletter, which is also going to go out with a call to action to book a call with you. And you're going to leverage the podcast and their audience to funnel all this traffic into your own newsletter, which you're going to grow and consistently leverage and exponentially grow, and just rinse and repeat this process. So when I say this is an easy pitch, my first ever podcast episode was with someone who had 60,000 followers on LinkedIn in a B2B niche, very targeted. And this was my first episode with zero audience, and they responded and they went on, and it all grew from there. And whatever, your niche, you're looking at about a 20% reply rate. Obviously, if you're talking to massive celebrities, it's not going to happen. But, industry leaders, thought leaders, people in the industry, you're going to be able to put them on a podcast with a 20% reply rate. And these are people who, would never give you the time of day before, never be interested in your services. And you're getting a 45-minute opportunity to have a conversation with them, steal their audience, and also get them in a position where they're fully aware of your services. So starting off the process, first thing you need to do is identify your ideal client and their audience. So who do you want to work with? Is this coaches? Are these small business owners? Are these other professionals, accountants, whoever? And you're going to find it not necessarily influencers. They could just be, people with large businesses in the industry who have a following and an established audience of these exact ideal clients. Industry leaders, influencers, people with other podcasts, newsletter owners. It could be absolutely anyone. Get creative, identify these people whose audiences you want to absolutely steal and leverage. And why this works so well is they already have this audience. You don't need to build it from scratch. And these are not only your exact people, the exact people you want to get in front with, but you've got an opportunity to speak in front of them for 45 minutes. And that means that with even a very, very small viewership, we're talking a few hundred downloads a month, that can convert into a very steady flow of clients, just because of the fact that you've nurtured them, you're working with someone they trust, and in many cases you get referrals or direct clients from the guests that you've had on the show because you can demonstrate your expertise on the call. So the next step, once you've identified these people, is pitching them a podcast. So why a podcast? You're offering the opportunity to get them exposure and build a relationship before you ask for anything in return. And the fact is, even if you don't have a large following, in fact, even if you have pretty much no audience at all, you can make it clear that you're going to promote this and send it out to your newsletter. You don't have to specify that you've got a large newsletter, you've got so many followers. A significant amount of the time, these people will be willing to get on because it's good marketing and it's 45 minutes of the time, free advertising, and it's an easy pitch. You're looking at 20% reply rate, as I say, even with larger people in the industry. And as I say, my first podcast, 60,000 follower industry leader, I had no audience whatsoever. So this is kind of the outline that I do for a pitch, and it's just very simple. And add on to the end of that, this will be promoted to my newsletter each week and will also be clipped. These people, 9 out of 10 times, now not everyone will do this, is if you edit your podcast into nice clips or even just send them a link to the full podcast, 9 out of 10 times they'll post this on social media and say, had a conversation with X about Y, and that drives more traffic. Now all this traffic, every episode you're going to have call to action, book a call with me, you're going to funnel all this traffic into your newsletter, you're going to steal people's audiences, and these are fantastic audiences, the exact people you want. Steal their audiences while subtly pitching them. And again, with the subtly pitching them, this podcast isn't a sales pitch. The idea is to build trust and offer value. So you're just going to naturally mention, it is an interview, but you can easily naturally mention, you're having a business conversation, naturally mention how your service is and what you do for clients and how this all helps. And this is going to be, not only in front of them, but in front of their audience. And the key is not to, push your services directly, just show and talk about how they work and the experiences you've had and why this would work for them. As I say, referral partnerships are also a big part of this. After the podcast is done, you want to follow up with absolutely everybody, thank them for being on the podcast, keep the connection alive, never let it die. 6 months, 2 years down the line, they could be a client, they could refer someone to you, they may want another episode, you can collaborate, whatever. Engage with their content, keep the relationship alive. The guests themselves are just as valuable as their audience because, of the leverage you can gain from, an established industry leader. Next is distribution of content, and now this is a massive part. So, as I say, you're going to clip your podcast, you're going to get them to post it, you're going to post it, literally, plaster it across your social media, get them to give it as much exposure as possible. And now, when I say 50 to 500 listeners per episode, now as I say, my episode had, first episode was a guy, 60,000 LinkedIn followers, who was more than happy to post it. That was about, I think the first episode did 800 views in the first couple of days. It did about 5,000 over the time. That's significant. That genuinely, that one episode probably booked like 15 calls, and these are like really effective, powerful calls. And 50 to 500 listeners is so easy to accomplish, especially when you're working with people who have followers of 10,000 plus, which you'll easily be able to do, right out of the gate. Now, you've got to include a call to action in your podcast. You obviously don't want to directly sell, but it is your podcast, and you can start off every podcast by saying, my name's James, I own an agency that helps other agencies, business owners grow a podcast, newsletter, and build an audience. And that's fantastic promotion out the gate. Your newsletter is going to have the same call to action right at the start, and you really want to give your recap of the whole affair. So now if I just do a recap of this whole system, find the people who already own an audience, pitch them to be a guest on your podcast, follow up, build a long-term relationship with them, leverage and absolutely steal their audience, share content consistently and engage your audience, include call to actions in every episode. And this works so fantastically because it's going with the relationship first, value first approach. You're not pushing a sale. It's a very subtle way to get on a conversation with people who you otherwise wouldn't be and steal their audience. And when I say steal, this is not in a negative way. If you educate, provide value to their audience and they're more than willing to share it with you, that's fine. You're also going to give them exposure as well. It works absolutely both ways. As the more value you can give them, the more value you'll get back. And this is something with a couple of thousand downloads a month, which is easily achievable after a few months. That can pretty much sort out your entire lead flow. So I hope this is effective. If you were interested in growing something like this out for yourself, I've got 1,000 case studies to show you. Link down in the description. We can work out a strategy for you, work out who would be your best guests. We'll set it up all for you. We do all the editing for you. We really work out the process, build out the funnel, get you on the conversations, and even provide scripts, research for every single episode, so you can go in there and look professional. So thank you very much for your time. All the best.